I believe one of the most exhausting things I've ever done in life was to chase after success. I mean, I used to give so much of my time to my career because I believe that the more you worked, the more hours you gave into the company, the more uh, you are positioning yourself for success, right, in that company. You know, I mean, I got so exhausted trying to, position myself into success by giving in so many hours at work, by constantly working, by giving my all, not taking breaks, not doing anything. But, the more I put in, the more further from success I felt. And my saving grace was when I heard Jim Rohn saying, success is something you attract by the person you become. At first, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how I needed to stop chasing after success and to start attracting success. But every day I kept on going back to that video clip and listening in. I kept on listening to him until one day a light bulb moment went off. I realized, oh my gosh, now I hear him. Especially when he said, companies do not pay you for the time that you give in, but they pay you for the value that you add. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. So the one thing that I needed to know was, then if I'm going to be successful, then I need to know what value I'm adding currently and how I can increase my value. But as I was going through that process of asking myself questions, stop blaming people, or stop blaming my managers for not promoting me, or stop blaming my managers for not recognizing my efforts, I started looking internally to see what is it that I could do that would make sure that, my work is recognized, that would make sure that I get fulfillment from what I do. I was trying to figure out answers for the career that I had chosen, the career in finance, because back then I was in finance. But then the more I started asking myself questions, the more I started learning more about myself. At the age of 35, I realized, oh my God, indeed, I'm in the wrong career. Indeed, the reason why I'm so exhausted all the time, it's because I'm doing something that I was never meant to do in the first place. That's when I found my purpose. But you know what? It's one thing to find your purpose. It's one thing to know that you have to change. But to actually change is a different story that takes commitment, right? That takes dedication every single day, discipline to make sure that you become the person that you say you are supposed to be. So I asked myself, then how does one add value to themselves? Education. That is the one thing that you can ever do for yourself that will always give you value, that will bring value to everything that you do. When you start educating yourself, it can be formal education if you're in a corporate space, a professional career. You can get a degree if you are in an administrator and you want to get a promotion. You want to start applying for better jobs so that you can get a good salary. You can start studying, apply to or enroll with a university, enroll with a technicon, any tertiary institution in order to improve your qualification, get a diploma, get a degree, get a master's degree. That is the one way that you can add value, because the more you study, the more you open up your mind. And when you open up your mind, you become of value to those around you, and you become of value to anything that you are involved in. And the more value you add, the more money you get. That is how you can make money. adding more time to your current work and not improving anything that you're doing. Sometimes it could be not get a professional qualification, but you can start improving on the work that you're doing. Some of you might have received a report 10 years ago from the person who was handing over the work to you, and you're still using that report exactly the same way that it was given to you, and you're still spending 3 days to prepare that report the way you were spending 3 days in the beginning. So you have not improved. And that is no way to get a promotion, to get more salary from your manager, to sit doing one report for 3 days and thinking that just because you're adding extra hours to do one report, then they will recognize your value. You don't add value by adding more time to the company. He says, Jim Rohn, most people work so much on their jobs and neglect working on themselves. But they don't realize that when you don't grow, then your career will never grow. So when I had that, that's the one thing that changed the direction of my life. Exhausted is one thing I'm not. Fulfilled is one thing I am. Rested, at peace are the things that are in my vocab these days. I never used to think of myself as rested. I was constantly on an edge, trying to compete, trying to face the world, trying to make it in this world, trying to chase after success. My mind was constantly busy trying to do all these things, change my external environment, not realizing that the more I work on my external environment and neglect myself and my growth, the more I was pushing away all these things that I actually wanted to enjoy. I wanted promotions. I was pushing away promotions because, in finance these days, you can't be a financial manager if you don't have at least an honors degree. If you're not a CA at times, these days, even they want a CA for you to become a financial manager. So if you don't study to get that qualification, that you automatically know that this is a position that you might just not get. Your chances of getting this position get slimmer and slimmer with each year that passes by, because the qualifications and the requirements of entering such a position, the more the years pass by, the more higher they become, right? So I understood that in order for me to change everything, to experience success in my relationships, to experience success in my friendships, was for me to start accepting people for who they are, and also for me to get off my high horse of believing that I'm righteous, I'm perfect, right? That's why I talked a lot about being perfect, because most of us believe, especially as women in relationships, we believe that we are perfect just because our partners never or hardly point out our mistakes or the things that irritate them about us. Then we start believing that we are perfect. Then we are in a position to point out everybody else's mistakes, because hey, if I'm such a perfect wife to you or a perfect partner to you, why are you doing all of these things? Why do you have so many friends? Why are you leaving your stuff all over the house? Why are you not ambitious enough? You start seeing everything that is wrong about our partners because we believe we're perfect. So when I started working on myself, I started realizing the things that, for example, my husband has had to tolerate throughout our marriage. But he never for once pointed them out to me. And when I started working on myself, I started, developing habits that I've always wanted to develop in order to become the person that I am today. In order to become as rested as I am, it takes habits, daily habits, to remind yourself of what you're doing, to remind yourself to be kind to yourself, to remind yourself that, you cannot write off the things that you did or believed for 35 years in just 2 months or 2 years. I mean, you're still new in this thing called the changed Pulaa Montz that you are, right? So it has been just 2 years or 3 years of this thing, but you have been having the perspective that success is something that you chase for 35 years. So in order for me to change something like that, I need to be kind to myself, and I need to give myself time to change. So I believe that most of us, as well as we're trying to change, to become the person that can now attract success, we then become impatient with ourselves. I mean, this is a note to self as well. We become impatient with ourselves. We want things to change now. We want to see results now. But I've realized that the more committed you are to change, the more change you'll start seeing. So when you start focusing on doing everything that you've said you're going to do on a daily basis and ignoring the results, for example, stop getting on that scale. It demoralizes you, but focus your energy on eating that apple instead of a piece of cake or a piece of chocolate, right? So the more you focus on the habits that you want to do in order to be successful, when you eventually look back from a month from now, for example, then you realize how far you've come. Then you realize the change that you've experienced over the past month, that you've been focusing on the good things that you want to do in order to change the kind of person that you are. So educating yourself is one way to make sure that you grow. And you can educate yourself by listening to, for instance, inspirational messages. Sometimes you've got a bad attitude, and that causes you not to be able to keep friendships, and you've been blaming friends for leaving you, but you have never taken time to look internally to see what is it about you that is rejecting people. When you are such a loving person, you want to have relationships, but why are people departing from you? Why are people rejected by your personality? What is it that you're doing? Maybe you've got a quality that you've never noticed, and people have been saying it to you, but because you haven't really looked inside of you to see whether whatever it is that they're saying is true about you, you've been rejecting their feedback, and hence you find yourself alone all the time. Now it's about time you sit down with yourself and look, what is it about you? What have people been complaining about? And start working on it. And the way to work on it, find video clips on YouTube, for example, and listen to people who struggle with whatever it is that you're struggling with and have conquered. I mean, there are so many solutions to all problems on YouTube right now. I mean, Google, YouTube, I mean, your life is sorted between those two. So if you have any problems that you want to deal with, a lack of discipline, lack of commitment, lack of motivation, bad attitude, trying to develop good habits. There are so many things that you can learn from just listening to inspirational messages that will help you change in order for you to start attracting the kind of success that you've wanted to achieve. I mean, for me, my marriage, I always wanted open communication. And when I started changing the person that I am and started becoming more open, I realized that my husband started opening up to me a lot more than he used to. We enjoy each other's company now because we share dreams, we share plans, we share our insecurities, right? And that is what you want, at least what I've always wanted in a relationship but could never have before I realized that I needed to work on myself. So in order for you to achieve the success that you want, you need to change. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach.